Hello. Well, thanks for having me and coming to my talk here. It's always nice to talk with people, and several people I see here that I know. So here's what I wanted to explore for a little bit is if you I don't know where you start the start date, but let's say the launch of ChatGPT 3.5, and it seems like, I don't know if you've been following the news a lot recently, but I think in the past, let's say 30 days of, that's a month, depending on which month, of AI talk. It's basically been like, this thing's a bunch of, I forget what the cursing thing is, bull hooey, horse hockey stuff. There's if you saw James Governor's talk, he had a picture of that Bloomberg circular thing, like a power strip plugged into itself, of like money circling around. And also, people are kind of doubting the efficacy of this stuff working. And I like to cite sources. So if you want a source, just ask that guy. He will inform you. Although he has an extremely balanced take of late. He's like, it's good for some stuff. Usually he's just like, I'm gonna carpet bomb whatever thing is in front of me. But I think he only regular bombed it, if whatever the lesser carpet bombing is. But there really is a sentiment and a lot of studies about the lack of effectiveness of doing enterprise AI, which is kind of a bummer for me, because I work at one of the companies that has benefited massively from AI stuff. And, I enjoy compensation as much as the next person, so I would like this to be successful. So I thought I would investigate a little bit. And the first thing is, I'm familiar with this phenomena of a cool new technology coming out and it being a bit of a letdown. Because back at my first job in 1995, we were in Austin, Texas, and we had this great idea that what the world needed on the internet was the ability to buy cowboy boots, or boots, as we would say back then. So we had this company, Allen Boots, which some of you may know, and great people. So we set up this whole thing called Shop Us. We also had the brilliant idea that what people really wanted to do was have a virtual reality interface walking through a shopping mall. Spent a lot of time on that. And we sold a total of 2 boots, I think. One to someone in Australia, so great for them, and I forget where the other one went. And eventually, I think nowadays, I bet Allen's Boots makes a lot of money online selling boots, not just funny tourists who come down to South Congress and need something to kill time with. So you sometimes have to wait a while for some technology to be useful. So maybe, for the sake of my portfolio and early retirement, the way we can think about it is that things have been improving for the last few months, which is probably a better way of looking at it. Now, I keep saying enterprise software, and it's always good to explain what that is. I think of enterprise software as, this is a representation of what it looks like. It's largely the sort of software that runs our lives, things that we do every day. But if you think about what it looks like, it generally looks like this. Very complicated processes. You go from one stage to another. There's various choices that you can make. Think of like contract negotiation or supply chain management, not in the software sense that we've tried to hijack, but actual like physical stuff moving through. Or doing payments, online banking, like all those sorts of things. And you look at this complexity, and it does seem like something that you would want to apply AI to, right? To kind of help out with it. Now, the way that I've been thinking about this over the past year or so is that one of these things is actually not enterprise software. It's a diagram of how to cast a spell in Dungeons and Dragons. And the point being that it is equally complicated. It's a different domain that is a little less boring. Now, I know we're supposed to explain things here, so I thought I'd explain what Dungeons and Dragons is, if you're not familiar. This is actually a fantastic summary from whatever they call it, Google's AI overview. You can read it. But basically, if you imagine some people that used to be nerds, now it's totally normal people, very mainstream. You get together, you're a fighter, you're a wizard, a rogue, or a thief, all sorts of other stuff. Someone comes up with an adventure. This someone is called the Dungeon Master. It's kind of a questionable term nowadays, but it's stuck. And, the Dungeon Master, the DM, comes up with a world, an adventure, and they're basically like telling this story. And they're interacting with the player characters, those people, other people. And I don't know. They go fight dragons, they find treasure, all sorts of different styles of play. But if you imagine a multiple person story with a lot of rules, right? Like if there's something that D&D has, it's a lot of rules, right? So here we are. this is a one representative part, and this isn't really even part of the game. This is just a diagram for how to create a character, right? Just something you do kind of once in a game session. Things get a lot more complicated if you look at like all sorts of other aspects. Like if you ever want to figure out if you're one of these rogues and you want to figure out how you could like hide behind that pillar, good luck. Like that's something that even an enterprise software thing wouldn't be able to solve. It's very nuanced and strange. But so if we take this domain, my theory is that like if the robot can play D&D, it can do enterprise software easily, right? Like you solve for all the things that go on there, all of the complicated stuff, the nuance, all of that, and you'll probably have a pretty easy time doing your sort of like procurement processes if you can figure out like, you know, combat or whatever in D&D. So my history of D&D is a long time ago. This is my friend Mason. I'll let you guess which one I am. We used to play D&D every weekend, staying up very late. It was very nice for several years, and we had other friends doing it. Very nerdy sort of thing. My shirt there is very questionable. I don't know what I was thinking of, but the other one's pretty cool. You can buy those kind of in truck stops worldwide, maybe. Anyways, but eventually, you know, I got a little older. I started focusing on other things. My friends got a car. I discovered, you know, socializing and doing other things, and it just kind of fell off the map. And then, you know, over time, I've gotten myself some fancy jobs, done sorts of stuff. I worked at, I've been lucky for the past 10 years to work at this place called Pivotal, and then VMware, Tanzu by Broadcom, and then Tanzu by Broadcom. If you've been through corporate worlds, you probably enjoy walking through and figuring out what your identity is. And I've written several books on how large organizations get better at software, how they do change and things like that. I was a developer a long time before that, and I mentioned James. I used to work, well, for him at Red Monk and other stuff. And since I'm from Austin, I had to do, if you work in tech, you have to do a compulsory 2-year term at Dell. So I worked there in M&A, which is fun, where I learned all of my Excel magic and how to make slides from there. If you ever worked with MBAs, or you get the chance, you should just do it, only for 2 years. You don't want to work with them more, but they're kind of fascinating people to work with. And I do several podcasts. I don't know, as one of my friends, Andrew Schaefer, likes to say, engage with my brand. There we are. So after all that fancy work, back in 2023, for whatever, a reason, I had to spend about, 4 days in a South Amsterdam hotel with my wife, which actually sounds nice, listening to it out loud. But I didn't have much to do. So I spent some time figuring out, hey, I should try this ChatGPT thing and play D&D. Now, there's a way of playing D&D that's called solo role-playing, which sounds pathetic and sad, but it's actually nice, right? Like, you kind of play on your own, as you can guess, and as I'll get into, there's a whole structure around it for how you introduce the randomness. But you know, this AI thing seems like a great way to have a dungeon master, to have someone to play with, to kind of do all of this world building and adventuring for you. And that's when I started doing this kind of playing with it back then. So it's been, I try not to do math in public, but it's been a good couple of years of me futzing around with this stuff. And what I've kind of come to, if you like stories and requirements, right? Like, you know, this is kind of what you want when you're doing D&D playing with an AI, right? You want it to be creative. You want it to like take initiative, do things, move the plot around. You want it to know the rules and apply them. Overall, just be fun, right? Like you're playing a game. Now, if you follow the trades of AI stuff, right? What you've arrived at is basically, this is what agentic AI is, right? And here's a bunch of definitions, but it's essentially something that acts autonomously, that has opinions, if you will, that does things on its own, right? Very much so like a dungeon master or a player in D&D. It's an individual, a person. So it feels like, if we want to explore what this is and maybe make enterprise AI a little more successful, all we need to do, or all I need to do, hopefully, is just kind of play around and get the AI to be good at D&D. And I've been doing that a while, and you know, it's difficult to demonstrate playing D&D with an AI, because I could sit up here for like 2 hours and just type, and that would be really lame to watch, I think. So, you know, I'm going to go over like what I think works well and doesn't work well, and how to kind of get around some of the things that don't work well. Now, the first thing, some of these are what you would expect, but it's good to get verification from doing it. And one of the best things is that it doesn't really ever get bored or tired. It's always available. It's always there, which is great for solo role-playing, right? I'm not even there all the time. At the end of the day, I don't like to think about anything. I'm a little exhausted, but our little, as one of my friends calls it, our little brilliant idiot in our pocket is always ready to go and is always there for you. And recently, it started to get much more imaginative. I'll show you a little something here, but originally, it was really terrible at coming up with ideas and stories, but it's gotten surprisingly good recently, right? And it's okay at following the rules. Like I said, the rules are complicated, but this part, I think, needs a little bit of work, but it is pretty good going along. Overall, I would say, solid, as we would say back in the States, solid B student when it comes to playing D&D. Doing very good. Maybe go to a very famous state school is what this is going to do. Now, the best part, which I think is maybe not easy to forget or dismiss, is it's dirt cheap. Now, I don't know, 20 pounds, dollars, euros a month seems pretty small for the amount that I get out of it. I probably shouldn't do the math to figure out how much a year that is. But it's extremely cheap at the moment for what I tend to get from it. Now, let me show you. I always think showing your AI prompts is a little bit like sharing your dreams with people. I don't know if you've had someone try to share the dream with you and they're like, I woke up and I wasn't quite sure where I was. It was maybe my house or your house. I listen to my wife's dreams because she's my wife, and I try to sort them out and make sense of them, and they're fun. But, anyways, here's my prompt that I've been using for a while, and this has evolved over time, right? And you can see the first thing that's important to know about doing something complicated with AI in a domain like D&D is this is actually relatively short, but I'm giving it a tremendous amount, to me, of instruction, right? I'm not just saying, hey, I want to play D&D. You can try that, and that's kind of a fun experiment. And then at the end, I'm giving it some context of the current environment and the players that I'm playing with and things like that. Now, something you don't see that I think is very valuable to know is that actually the robot here already knows a tremendous amount about D&D. It actually knows lots of the rules. It's read all of the internet, so to speak. So it knows everything on Reddit that people have written over the past 20 years, all of the interpretation. So unlike maybe, obscure, Hungarian contract management, it has a huge body of knowledge that it's drawing from when it comes to this. So you don't really have to go over the rules very much. And it tends to work. However, it's also good to get verified that it actually read the thing at the end, because I'm always suspicious that it's not paying attention to it. Now, here's kind of an example of the kind of the way it starts off, right? It's pretty good at asking questions when you start something out. It wants to know what character you're playing, what style do you want to do, and that's some good self-awareness to know there's different ways of doing D&D, how do you want to go about doing it, and it's always been like this, but it's gotten a little bit better about that. And so what I did in my little experiments here is I figured if you know D&D, the best character to play in a situation like this is what they call a chaotic neutral player, which is basically a crazy, unpredictable character. And that way you can just kind of respond to whatever and not have any rhyme or reason to what you're doing. So I thought for my test case, I'd have this gnome called Sven that was just like a crazy, fighter's also a good thing because you can get out of any situation easily. You don't need specialized things to do stuff. But here's my test case of what you have there. So you set that up. It's pretty good at analyzing what the character is and knowing it. Now, and this is a good demonstration of how imaginative it's gotten, right? And what it's been able to do here is compared to early on when I was doing this, it's actually created very quickly a very sort of rich, you would call opportunity-rich setting, right? So think about doing a story-based thing. There's kind of two ways of doing D&D. One, you can sit around and role play and be like, I'm going to go have a conversation with people. Or, I'm going to do some sort of transacting about, I want to go shopping and buy some boots or something. So you can go through this kind of endless role-playing, but more of what people want to do is interact with things and have combat, have conflict, a situation, right? You don't see a lot of entertaining movies and TV shows where people just kind of go about and buy stuff and kind of role-play, if you will. So with that context, what's great about what it's done here, without very little, a tiny bit of control over it, is it's understood the rules, what's valuable, and it's bringing you immediately in the chance to do something, right? So this is actually, I'm emphasizing this because this is not what it was like at first. It would just sit around and wait for you to do something. But here, it's immediately thrusting you into doing something, right? It set up a situation where there's some villagers being tormented by some bandits. It'd be cooler for my talk if it chose goblins instead of bandits. But it had bandits. It's putting you in front of a situation where you need to make some decision about what to do. And it's great. It's very engaging and moves along there. Now, playing that scene out, right? Like, it actually was very imaginative. And I highlighted this part because this is like the first time I've seen an AI get over the prudishness that makes it kind of not entertaining. It just like jumped right into like, how would a bandit talk? It wouldn't be like, I dare say, you should go away. No, it's like it's going to be crude and kind of like PG-13 and R-rated, right? Which has taken a long time to get to that point. But the point of this is, so you have the bandits and the little guy Sven there. He engages with them, and it's pretty good at coming up with tactics that these bandits are going to have. There's 3 of them. It sends one over to engage with you while the other 2 are holding these villages hostage. And then as you defeat one of these bandits, it kind of changes the mood about what's going on, and a different decision is made with the NPCs. It's not just like kind of like sending these things out to play with you. It's actually making interesting tactical decisions, and it was quite entertaining to play with. And eventually what happened here, because I know you're wondering in this plot line, is the little gnome showed his prowess, and they basically said, we'll leave and nothing will happen. So he saved the villagers, and they offered him some cheese and a free place to stay, which was delightful. Very typical D&D thing. So let's get to the problems that it still has, right? And again, my motivation is just to be paid to play D&D, to have an excuse for it. But to make that possible, my motivation is to think about this as a metaphor for doing enterprise software. So start thinking about like how these same things can apply to that area. And this is what it really kind of consistently over the years hasn't worked out very, very well. Now, even though I said it's imaginative and it's been taking initiative, like I said, that's only recently, but it still has this predictability to it, this boringness. Now, I'm no expert on how AI works, but I'm pretty sure what it does is, depending on the settings, it comes up with the most likely thing to happen next, the predictable thing that would happen. So it's little wonder, after studying all these D&D adventures, that if you've played D&D, I could probably tell you, if you're going down a road and there's either a dead horse, a fallen tree, or a curve in the road, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next is you're going to be ambushed by goblins, right? And so that is exactly the kind of predictability that happens. These things come up. It's also very clumsy in how it does stuff. It doesn't have a lot of common sense. It's not smooth in how it applies things. And it even kind of fails at, I forget what you call this in the theater or whatever. It fails at retaining information that the player wouldn't know. It kind of tells you what is happening. I don't know. It tells you that some goblin is in the bushes, essentially, waiting to ambush you, which is kind of a bummer for fun. And then, of course, the thing that everyone knows is it has, you probably know, is it doesn't have an infinite memory. So, like I said, I've been playing these characters for 2 years, and it doesn't really know everything that's happened over 2 years like a human would just easily retain what had happened, not exactly on the date, but they would know the complete history of the character, just like you would know the complete history of this contract that you're trying to negotiate and settle on. So it needs some help with that kind of memory. Now, as an example, I mentioned the goblin ambush. A way you can test this out is if you don't set it up, and I specifically tell it to avoid this stuff. It's a very typical D&D scene. You walk into a tavern or an inn. And if you've played D&D, you can play a little game here. You probably can spot what the cliche is. And this will happen almost every time. Just like goblins hiding behind a bush, what will emerge is there's a mysterious hooded figure sitting in the corner as you walk into a tavern. Because again, goblin ambush number 1, mysterious hooded figure in the corner number 2 of D&D cliches. And so you really do have to tell it, I don't want any mysterious hidden cloaked figures in the corner, or it's going to try to bring that to you. So this kind of predictability comes up over and over again, and it's something that starts to be annoying, and you've got to kind of coach it to like not do that cliche, tropey type of stuff. Now, I kind of mentioned that it also doesn't have like a lot of common sense. It's kind of clumsy. Here, to explain what's going on. You're about to fight a goblin, and it's explaining exactly what the goblin's going to do, the tactics it's going to take, what its stats are, what its characteristics are, which, like, even though a player may know these things because they've read all the books, you're not supposed to, like, say that out loud and kind of, like, tell the player what's about to happen, because then it would not be enjoyable, right? So you do end up coaching it over and over again, like, hey, great job, but remember, don't do that. Right, like you should not reveal things that we don't, someone wouldn't know. And then there's some other stuff. I mean, this is a little obscure, but it kind of loses track of what various characters would do. This is you're fighting a goblin, and a goblin has this special ability that if it's involved in an attacking in combat, it actually can escape without anyone attacking it. Right, and also goblins don't want to die, just like all of us. Most of us, hopefully. And so, like, if a goblin is in a bad state like this, immediately what it should do is use the special ability to run away, right? Like, however, in this case, it's just going crazy and it keeps attacking. So that kind of imagination, that kind of clumsiness happens in when you're using AIs for playing D&D a lot, over and over again. And you can imagine, again, the scenario where you're trying to use this in an enterprise, a business context, and it's not really going to have, like, common sense unless you're spelling out all these common sense things over and over again. Like, I don't do contract stuff, but I imagine there's a lot of common sense. Like, read it is probably one of the most common sense things. Look for, I don't know what it is. I shouldn't speculate. So, in order to solve that, you can do lots of prompting, but nowadays, in the past, year or so, you can do a lot of work with doing your own programming with some tools and ways of basically manipulating and giving AI something to do, or some way of getting around this stuff. Now, thankfully, I mentioned solo role-playing. There's actually, like, a very, I don't know how old it is, but there's a very long, rich tradition and materials, tools. They're books, but they're kind of thought technologies, if you will, for how to do this, how to get over even those common things that the AI has. Now, the most famous system is called the Mythical Game Master Emulator, which is, now that I'm listening to it, one of the nerdiest phrases I've ever said. There's another one, the Plot Unfolding Machine. Sounds a lot cooler. But these are basically systems of injecting randomness into playing. You think about if you're sitting there with yourself, and you're like, well, you need some way of having unexpected stuff in there. Not that you just, like, lay out exactly what you think and it goes as planned. You need some way of triggering strange things happening and asking questions. These are called oracles, right? Like, is there a goblin hiding in the bushes over there? And you roll some dice and it'll say yes or no, or all sorts of variations of that. You can bring up, if you're interacting with a non-playing character, an NPC, you can roll to see what their attitude is, right? So you're getting that kind of unexpectedness. So this seems like a natural thing to add into AIs to not only get over that predictability that they have, but also just kind of force the AI to do something weird and different, right? To respond to something in an unexpected way, which is quite entertaining. Now, these are easy to program. This is, I'm sure people have mentioned Model Context Protocol, or MCP. It's really easy to write, like, these little agents. You can see that being done here in Java and TypeScript, depending on what you want. But it's super easy to do this and add it to the AI and say, like, use this to randomize things, and it actually ends up making things more interesting. So here's that combat situation, and you can see it's called one of these tools, and it gives us this mysterious no but when it's asking what the bandit leader is going to do, and it comes up with something pretty interesting, right? Like, it comes up with a different type of story, and kind of this the leader having some, I don't know, humanity is the wrong way of putting it, but thinking more like a person rather than just sort of like a mindless sort of automaton of a combat thing. Now, there's all sorts of other tools that I've played with that you can add. There's lots of these oracle things and coming up with random stuff. But to solve the memory problem, you can also have, like, a dungeon master journal. Have it save out what's been happening in the state of things. And that's extremely helpful for doing stuff. So these tools actually make it work better. And it's a lot more fun to use that. Now, in an enterprise context, you need a lot more stuff. We saw a lot of mention of stuff in the previous talk. You've got compliance and security and regulation, very, very thrilling things for you to do. But you generally need a lot more things built around your AI than just, like, I'm fighting some bandits, right? And so generally what you see out there is people put together platforms and stacks of things, all your user enterprisey stuff, which is just thrilling to use if you're into that kind of thing. But you do need all of that framework stuff around it. So what's sort of like, if we look at the how can we save enterprise AI use, right? I think what I kind of think about and what I've learned in playing this is, if you read all of the AI is awesome, but you've got to do all this stuff. I think, yes, that's very true, right? Like, it's not going to be just like super does all your stuff. It's actually, to use an old, if you remember that guy Mark Pilgrim from the Python days of the 2000s, he used to say a lot of effort went into making this effortless. And that's really what it's like to use AI stuff. It's super fun, but you've got to really put a lot of work into it. Now, that said, it's really fun that I am programming stuff. I haven't programmed since like 2005, and I keep trying to get people to teach me how to do it, and they're busy with their lives. But the little guy who's never boring is really good at teaching me how to program again. So it's fascinating. And also it's fun to actually play D&D, even in my sad solo life. I should probably play it with my kids, but they have homework to do. So that's my excuse for doing it on my own. And then finally, I was thinking of a theory here. We should probably get back to the enterprise stuff. What is the deal with it not having lots of, as we would say, return on investment or ROI? How do we sort through that? Well, I think, to borrow, it's always fun to have a paradox. I'm never quite sure what that should mean, but here's the way I've been thinking about that, based on this experience of doing D&D and also using AI stuff at work. It seems like with people, you can use AI stuff, and I'm just making up a number. You can be like 20% more productive, and as an individual, that means don't tell your bosses this, you can do 20% less work, right? If you do something faster, maybe you can leave earlier, or maybe you can book your trip at work and have less responsibility. So that's an obvious benefit to an individual, but I think when it comes to an enterprise as a whole, an organization, right? If you have 4,000 ICs, which is an individual contributor, it's a great way that an enterprise thinks of a person, but someone who's not a manager. But if you make 4,000 of them more productive, what do you do with that? Right? It seems like the most imaginative thing that organizations have thought of is we can fire 20% of them. But what can you actually do with that aggregate of productivity? And I don't really think organizations know how to deal with that. Historically, they haven't been great at figuring out when there's this huge productivity gain. They're not really sure how to react to it. They've got to sort it out over time. And I think that's because it's hard to kind of know and manage and see that value that each individual is having and how it bubbles up to the top. I don't know if I believe that, but it seems like a good pro-IC story that I've been trying to sort out. Why is AI so great for individuals, or why do people like me have so much fun with it, and yet at the enterprise level, people are like, I don't know, this doesn't seem to be doing anything. There's some weird disconnect there. Well, that's been my experience over the past couple of years, and hopefully a little bit of how an excuse maybe, if someone's insisting that you do AI at work, tell them first I need to play some D&D, and I'll sort it all out. Come back to me in 6 months. But thanks for taking the time to listen to this, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you so much, Michael.